Hey everyone! For today's video, we're in the studio with Bireli Lagrene. So before you watch the interview, please like, subscribe, and I do want to say one thing. This week, there will be a price increase on DC Music School because we were served with very sudden, drastic increase in overhead costs. So it's something we need to do. If you want to take advantage of the old pricing system, now's the time, and the switch will take effect sometime within the week. So without further ado, here's the Birel Lagrene interview. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Hello everyone, we're here with Birel Lagrene. We're in France. Normally I speak to him in French, but these subtitles are very difficult to make, and I know that Bireli speaks fluent English, so we speak in English. Thank you so much for doing this with me, Bireli.
Thank you. How does you?
So basically, we all know about your Django story. Everyone asks you those same questions, but I want to ask you a few different things. For instance, many people ask you about the violin. When did you pick that up, and how did you practice that?
Well, I picked it up maybe 25 years ago, but I wanted to know how it works, because I wanted to use that violin technique more or less sometimes in my guitar playing. That's why I wanted to discover this instrument.
And you learned it on your own, or did you have like help from Didier Lockwood or things like that?
Didier showed me a few things, but most of the time I would practice at home alone.
So you figured out all those complicated bowings on your own?
Yeah, man. What a drag.
And of course, there's a video of you playing the double bass when you were a kid. Was that something that you played as well when you were younger?
I didn't have a double bass at home, but sometimes the bass player I played with would let me play on stage once in a while. But it's not really an instrument that I spend much time on it.
And then there's the electric guitar. I know that towards the age of 15 or so, you started. You could hear that you were starting to get into more of a modern style of playing. And I know at the age of 14, you were still playing in more or less in a Django style. So between 14 and 15, something happened. Can you talk about like the electric guitar world and how that came about?
Well, it came about that I wanted to do something else because, when you play somebody else's music and you try to play like to copy that certain person, it's always not easy because you're not yourself. So when I got about 15, 16, I was thinking about, what could I do to become, to do my own stuff, So I was, something happened, just like you said, and I was trying to develop, my kind of stuff and lines and chords and stuff, and that's how I, little by little, I got away from Django Reinhardt.
Was there anyone in particular that you listened to as far as the electric guitar is concerned?
No. Of course, I listen to, just like you do and other great guitar players do, George Benson or people, they all listen to other guitar players, which I did too. But now, I would listen to exactly like people like George Benson, Pat Martino, Jimi Hendrix, of course. It didn't have to be jazz, it was anything what I could, lay my hands on.
I know that when you were younger with the Django stuff, you were like lifting exactly so, but was for the electric guitar, there was nothing like that, just basically listening and just whatever.
Yeah, I had hard times doing that, man, all the time because, I was so regardless in Django's solos, and I really wanted absolutely to learn those solos. And so that took me a lot of time because I had to go back with the needle, at the particular spot, which was very difficult to do, and over, of course,
But
things which are much easier today.
yeah, of course. But with the electric guitar, did you have that same kind of process with anyone like Benson or anything? It was just
No, not at all. The only person I really copied, because he was also my spiritual father, if you want, because Django taught me how to play actually through his records.
I know later on you played a little bit with Vic Juris, right? How did that come about?
Yeah. Oh man, Vic goes. That goes a while back. I met Vic, I think, in 1984 in New York, and we decided to play together one day. So a year after or so, we had a trio, and we toured Europe for a few weeks, and then on and on again. And he was a great guy. I miss him a lot, man. He unfortunately passed away.
Yeah, I was able to connect you guys one last time in Montreal when
Yeah,
he was
right. Like
sick.
you, thanks
Yeah,
to
yeah,
you, man.
yeah,
I
yeah.
got to talk to him one
Oh,
last time.
yeah. And then, okay, when going to New York, how was that? Did you actually live in New York for a little bit, or?
No, actually, I never did. It's funny because many people do think so, and no, I did a lot of back and forth, but I was amazingly often in New York back in those days, especially in the late '80s, early '90s.
Is that where your English comes from?
Probably.
I heard a rumor. I don't know where I read this, but someone said that you want to change names to Billy the Green or something like that. Is that?
No, Chris Mindoki and Mike Stern called me like that. They called me Billy Green.
Ah,
But
there we
it
go.
sounds funny to them, so I said, okay.
All right. And when you play the electric guitar, I noticed that you change technique. Is this something that you're conscious about, or it just happened like that?
No, it just, I wish it would happen like that. But it's a certain position that you get used to it, when you play different styles of music. And I just got used to this one, because you, of course, have to adapt yourself, whatever guitar you play or whatever style you play. But now it comes quite naturally, yeah. Yeah, but it was a thing I had to work on, of
So you
course.
thought about it, like something should change a little bit.
Definitely, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And when speaking of going to the USA frequently, I'm sure you played with a lot of musicians. Everyone knows about Jaco. We could talk a little bit about that. But were there other musicians that you met, like, oh wow, this is great?
Oh yeah, man. I was, as a European musician, I would say I was so lucky, and I still am, today, to have played with these great American musicians, and I hope that I will still do. And I know so many of them. Plus, it's so great, um, and so yeah, I met a lot of musicians. Jaco, for instance, I played with Joe Zawinul a little bit in the mid '80s. Joe called me to hold the guitar parts for this brief episode he had with, and it was not called Weather Report because Wayne Shorter left. That's when Weather Reports they ended the band, and it was called Weather Update.
Oh, nice.
I mean, so that was like '87. So Joe called me up and he asked me if I could join the band, and I had too many things to do, and I was signed up with Blue Note at that time already. And I was very busy, and as my heart was broken, but unfortunately I had to decline. So I told him,
That's too
Joe, I'm
bad.
so sorry. With great honor, but I can't. Unfortunately, I can't do it. Yeah. So Joe, Jaco, George Benson, Pat Martino. A lot of people, man.
So those are people that you actually met when in those days in the early '80s,
Yeah, and
maybe.
I still do.
And then you played with Jaco. Was when you played with him, was there any kind of things that he expected from you, or you just be yourself and
And now I think he didn't ask me nothing actually. He
just
was
played?
I just played. I was 19 at that time. I was scared to death, and but it was a great experience, I must say. Until even nowadays when I think about it, it still warms my heart. He was such a great man, also. At the same time, great composer, great writer, arranger, bass player. It's not even worth mentioning.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of the bass, when you were playing with him, were you actually watching what he's doing to get his secrets or something? Or?
Well, now he gave me a few lessons too. Actually, once on the bus or in hotel rooms. So I got to see how he does certain things. I had to ask him. I said, Jaco, could you show me some stuff that you did on your early record, and all that other stuff. So he would show me some of it.
Oh, cool.
That was cool. That was very cool of him, man.
And we know that when you were really young, you spent all day practicing guitar, copying Django. Then later, maybe 15 until maybe 25. Was there a period, because that by then you switched to electric guitar, electric bass, or whatever? Was there a period where you were just shedding very hard like that as well, or just mainly gigs?
I played so much that I was always on the road, and sometimes I would practice, but most of the time I didn't. I just had some stuff in my head that I wanted to, you know, to have it out, and it worked very well. But I didn't have. I would love to practice, and I would have loved to practice back then, but I barely had the time
Well,
because
the gigs were your practice.
I was out there
Okay,
gigging and practicing at the same time.
cool. A lot of people ask me, because I did those things with you, is it true that Bireli doesn't know much theory? Would it be okay if I kind of tested how much you know?
I still don't know much about it, man. I can read a few chords. That's it.
But you can read charts, right? You told me you can read
I can
basic
read
charts.
charge, yeah. Charge.
Charts.
Charge me, baby.
Like, for example, if someone told you to play a G13 chord, would you know how to do that?
Get out of here.
If I asked you, for example, a 3-octave major scale, could you do that?
How could I do that? I don't know about
There we go. So that's the answer.
it. Well, a lot of people do not, I'm not going to mention their names, but I can tell you a few things that you would be surprised how many people, famous musicians, don't know how to read.
Well, I'm not surprised, but other people are.
Yeah, you're not, other people, but yes, because you know the story.
Your time field is really quite special, because oh my God, 7 years ago we worked together. I analyzed, what we did. I noticed that your time field changes from style to style. How conscious is this, or is it just something that you feel naturally because you listen to the music so much?
Um, I don't know. I don't know how that happens.
It just
Man.
came so catchy.
It's just there somehow. It's just there.
Because when you play this acoustic Django style, it's kind of like the Django style timing. And when you play bebop, it's more of a bebop style timing, or funk or whatever. I just see, wow, it's really in that style.
Yeah. You say it. It must be true if you say it.
It is. Did you ever work hard with a metronome or something, or is it just something that you just feel like that?
Nah, I never worked with metronome. I prefer if I practice, I rather play with some playback stuff.
But back in the day, what was it like? You played along to records, or?
I mostly played along with the records. Yeah.
Okay.
And my brother who still plays guitar.
Yeah.
I would play with him a lot in those days.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager.
When you play in a group setting, I know that you have an extremely high standard, and I'm very grateful that I was able to play with you for a little bit. I learned quite a lot from you.
Man.
But I know, like, playing with you, it's full of surprise. And I actually talked to your bass player just a week ago, and he was saying, still after all these years, it's still a very, very big surprise. And you said something about accompaniment. What you want from your company is them to be very sure of themselves. Can you talk a little bit about that, like what you expect of your accompanists?
Well, I think especially bass players and drummers, of course, and there we are. Because if they can lay something down where you, as a soloist, feel comfortable, and not to be obsessed by watching them or all the time, what are they going to do? Is this going to work well? So that takes a lot of professionalism also, I would say, just to be sure, because I need to, as every musician, guitar player or piano player, whatever it is, they need to relate on what's rhythmically present, Good bass players, good drummers, and if those guys are good, man, you're good to go.
Because you in particular are very unpredictable rhythmic wise, so that's what makes it very, very challenging. So you just want them to be very sure of themselves, of where the beat is, or
yeah. I need them to be out there with me at that same level, kind of, and even if they take risks, but when they take risks, it's like I take a lot of risks, man. But most of the time, for me, it works out. But I don't know how bass players or drummers can do it, but it has to be at a certain level, yeah. Because, like I said before, I need to be backed up by them, and that's very important when you have, of course, a good rhythm rhythm section.
All right.
And you could blow more then,
Yeah, of course. Do you have perfect pitch or something close to that?
Close.
Yeah, I know that you learn very fast. That's for
Nobody's perfect.
sure. I said we wouldn't talk much about Django, but actually, if you don't mind talking about this, I know that a lot of people, when you
Sure.
see you on stage, they expect you to be playing Django Reinhardt music. How do you feel about that?
Not anymore.
Less so.
Nah, less, so much less. It's not that I like to play it,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe people think I want to get away with it. No, it's not true. But as a musician, I think you have to go and find your own way, just like I said before. But I still love that music, man. And Django still remains one of the greatest out there. He's among the top 5. And it's always a joy if I get to play that music. But I'm not in it anymore that much. I want to discover other things, which I did, and which I hopefully will continue, in the next years. But I can always go back and play that kind of music. I have to practice a little bit before, of course, but it's still there somewhere in my brain.
This is a conversation we had privately a number of years ago, but we were talking about jazz violinists or some players, horn players that clearly don't know the harmonies. How important is it to be in the harmony?
Well, that's what makes the whole music. If you can't play over the chords, man, I don't know. Even if you so-called can improvise, to me and to many other musicians who know how to improvise, it makes no sense.
But you can hear a lot of things that a lot of people cannot hear.
Oh, yeah. But most of the time I say nothing.
You're a nice guy.
I'm a nice guy.
Yeah, you are. And how about, of course, you are Sinto. For those who don't know, that's Sinti are the gypsies from the west of Europe. Is that an important part of your being, or just something you were born that way?
I'm born that way. It is what it is. Some people make that big thing out of it, gypsy. I mean, there are other musicians, man. Nobody cares where they come from. So I don't know why I should have more chances by the fact of being a gypsy to become a guitar player. To me, it's not important. I'm just a human being and happens to play guitar. What I am, I am. I don't know.
And a lot of people ask this, like, what kind of gear do you use? Like guitar, amp, picks, whatever.
Well, right now I'm using I'm not such a guitar searcher. I do not also endorse guitars because I always like to switch. I want to play a guitar when I like it. I want to play it. Other than having a signature guitar, I don't know. It's nice publicity, of course, but I'd rather pick a good guitar. That's it for me, man. That's it. Amps, I use these DB Mark at the moment, which are great sounding amps, especially for jazz also as well. They make this combo and it just sounds so clean and it's wonderful. I also have different setups at home with 4x12, when it gets a little bit very electric. So I got those at home and it's great, great amps. I'm really glad to be able to play them.
So I noticed you're playing a copy of a Gibson guitar. So why do you play Yamaha and not a Gibson?
Well, because I endorsed Yamaha since the mid-'80s. And I still am with them, kind of, even though if we don't have much contact anymore. But that's a guitar which I had for years, and I got used to it. So to me, it doesn't matter if it's a Gibson or something. Like I said, I want to play on a guitar where I feel comfortable.
Well, that's pretty much it. If you want more information, check out the lessons on DC Music School with Bireli Lagrene. We recorded many, many volumes. Thank you so much.
Sure, man. Anytime. Thank you guys out there.
Cheers.